5 years, can't do it. That's one of the things at times when sometimes alternative loans are actually more beneficial. An alternative loan is a private loan where anyone who is over 18 and has a decent credit record can actually apply for funds with the student. You are typically considered a co-signer. The student is still primarily responsible for that loan, okay? However, if he or she decides to take off for a tropical island after they graduate and doesn't continue to make payments or stops making payments, obviously whatever vendor you used, you know, Sallie Mae, a PNC, a Discover, any of those vendors are going to come knocking on the co-signer's door and say, hey, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, you co-signed on this loan, we can't find him or her, you now have to pay us, okay? I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail because that may not be something you ever have to look into. I just want to let you know that there are other funds out there that we can look into if that is something that you're interested in. Always exhaust any source of free money before you look at the Stafford loan, the parent loan, or a private alternative loan. Scholarships are key. We were so excited this year to actually be able to offer renewable scholarships. Some of you may have already received award letters from the scholarship committee via admissions. I believe if the SAT score for the student is 1050 or higher, and the GPA from high school was a 3.25 or higher, that's a cumulative GPA, automatically you knew you were getting at least $1,000. And not only was it $1,000, is it $1,000 for a freshman year, it's renewable for up to a total of 4 years as long as he or she has at least a 3.0 grade point average, okay? And they have to earn, I believe, at least 24 credits for the year, 12 and 12. It's fantastic to have that assurance in your pocket because I know a lot of colleges, yes, they'll offer freshman awards, but unfortunately, they're just for the freshman year. That award amount can be higher if their SAT score is higher, if their GPA is higher, if they're in certain majors, like one of the sciences, or doing education with a concentration in something else. And that's just straight off the bat for freshmen. There are alumni awards, there are foundation awards. Many of those you don't need to apply for. The scholarship committee is reviewing the pool of applications that come in and notifying you of what you or your son or daughter is eligible to receive. However, if you haven't heard anything, if you have any questions, I guarantee you they do not mind you contacting them, okay? In my office, the number I gave you beforehand, I currently have Ms. Jody Mount, and she's on the scholarship committee. So that phone number I gave you would also work if you wanted to ask about scholarships. You could talk with Jody. You would just ask for her. Our website, we did a redesign of our website, and they rolled that out this past fall. I think it's much easier, in my opinion, to search for Clarion scholarships now. So if you haven't already checked that out, please do. It would tell you who to contact if it's not something that's an automatic consideration through the admissions office. Obviously, high schools. What you want to do is narrow the pool. If you're competing for a national scholarship, your odds statistically are less that you're going to be successful in attaining that. Not that you might not get it, I'm just saying the smaller the pool, the better your odds. So we always say check with your high school guidance counselor. Some of them are very, very active. Push that information out there, make it available. Some are not so active. There's probably a guidance counselor in the audience, right? And I don't mean to offend anybody. But it just depends. It depends on how big your school is. Again, try to encourage your son or daughter to at least, if they don't hear from the guidance counselor, I'd at least make them go, or I'd call as a parent and say, hey, I want to know what information's out there locally, what's the school district have, you know, what are you aware of that you're looking for applicants. Right now is the key time to apply for financial scholarships, okay? You're talking usually anywhere from February, March, April. Usually by the end of April, most of those groups have made their decisions and their award amounts. As parents, look at your employer, Kiwanis clubs, Rotary clubs, Lions, women's clubs, churches. They do not necessarily, in most cases, they don't require you to be a member of that organization, especially the civic organizations. They're just looking for someone from your hometown that is interested in going to college, pursuing a post-secondary degree, and they want to give money to a good local kid, okay? And again, the same time frame. This is the time to be doing it. I always encourage the students. I know, I can remember myself, nobody is overjoyed with the idea of writing 5 or 6 different essays about yourself. But if you come up with, if they come up with one quasi-generic that can just be tweaked, that either says something about themselves and their future goals, why do they want to go to college, what is their degree choice, how do they see that impacting their life and others around them, or maybe community service, that's another hot topic. What have they done that's given back to the local community? A lot of times you can recycle that so that it's not as burdensome to apply for 10 scholarships, 5 of which 1 essays. That's just a thought. Again, you don't want to pay anyone or a company to guarantee, oh, we guarantee you give us $50, I'll find you funding. I hate to tell you, but most of what comes back is, well, here's a Pell Grant. Here's a state FIA grant. Well, guess what? You were going to get that anyway when you filled out the FAFSA and the state application. You shouldn't have to spend money to get money, I guess, is typically my rule of thumb. But fastweb.com, anybody familiar with that? Fastweb.com, actually you can sit down, the student can sit down, type in information about biodemo, information about themselves, and it will spew forth a long list of contact information, other scholarships. Now those can be local or national, okay? They have every college in the country, I think, also posts theirs in there. And again, it's up to the student and the family to say, all right, are we really going to spend the time? But you know what, if you spend 5 or 6 hours and you end up with, $1,000, that's a pretty good hourly rate when you think about it. It would be worth your while, I would think, to check into it, but time is of the essence because there's not a whole lot more. Scholarships, all we ask is if it comes from an outside entity, just let us know, because we do want to reflect that in the financial aid award package. We are responsible to have a sense of all types of financial aid that the student is receiving, okay? And a lot of the scholarships are co-payable to the school and to the student. So in that case, we also, want to make sure we're recording that in the student award package. I'm going to mention 2 smaller programs. I'll still mention 2. SEOG, Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. Again, it's a mouthful, we're lazy, we call it SEOG. SEOG is a small grant if you happen to have at Clarion a 0 expected family contribution. Your son or daughter could qualify for $400. And I know that's not very exciting. I mean, we talked about a $5,700 grant, and here's a $400. But it's still gift aid. It still is money that doesn't have to come out of your pockets. If you think that your son or daughter does qualify because of that EFC, and that's really the criteria, except it's first come, first served. I don't have enough SEOG money to give everyone at Clarion who has a 0 EFC $400. So I would encourage you to just write that down, and once you fill out your FAFSA, if it comes up with a 0, it's not a bad idea to follow up with our office using that number I gave you at the beginning. Because if you reach out to me, as opposed to letting the computer just package until it runs out of money, which is normally how these programs are set up, I can personally go in once we start packaging in June and put that money into your son or daughter's award, okay? But like I said, I can guarantee you I run out of the funds before I run out of potential students that are eligible, so that's why I always like to mention it. The other small program, it's a loan program. It's under self-help. It's not gift aid like SEOG or Pell or FIA. That is the Perkins Loan Program. We lend $1,000 a semester, $2,000 total for the year, to students who have some type of financial need, okay? You do not have to be limited to very, very low expected family contributions. You just can't have more than enough financial aid in your package to already meet, at least on paper, financial need. You are borrowing money through the university in the Perkins Loan Program. It's basically a revolving loan program. Flat 5% interest rate, okay? The student is the borrower, there's no cosigner. It's very similar to Stafford in that sense. Whereas Stafford carries a 6-month grace period before you have to go into repayment, Perkins gives you 9 months. So it's a little bit more lenient.